am Dave Geenan, Acting Mayor Pro Tem tonight, and I call this gavelous meeting to order and welcome everyone to this meeting tonight. We have a special night where we recognize those who are our Citizens of the Year, who contribute to the fabric and the life of this community to make it better, and that's what part of our agenda will cover tonight. May I please have a roll call?
Actually need to read number 2 first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. This meeting will also be conducted by audio and video conference without the requirement of a physically present quorum of the Rock Island City Council due to the disaster declaration issued by Governor Pritzker. Because of this order related to COVID-19 health concerns affecting the state and the city, the mayor has determined that an in-person meeting at City Hall with all participants may not be practical or prudent. Alderpersons and staff may not all be physically present at City Hall due to the disaster, and physical attendance at City Hall may be limited. To participate remotely during the public comment or public hearing portion of the meeting, please join by phone at 1-929-256-1058 and use PIN 614-122-299 and the pound sign.
May I please have a roll call?
Alderperson Robinson.
Present.
Hurt.
Here.
Gilbert.
Present.
Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Geenan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Pro Tem, I make a motion that we move up other business after public comment so that we may finish our question and answer period with our 2 presenters from the study session.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Hurt.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
And Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
So other business.
After
Public
public comment.
Public comment, I have a list up here. Those who are wanting to speak on the item number 24 on the McDonald's parking lot, we're going to let you speak when we hit that agenda item. Chuck Wilt, we have you signed up to speak first.
Thank you. My name's Chuck Wilt, live in Rock Island. I moved back here from Minneapolis about 12 years ago, and I was very happy at that time to see that recycling was here, because the city of Minneapolis did free pickup recycling for many, 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 many years. Most residents of my age, I'm 81, and others, did not want to drive way over to western Scott County when it's 5 minutes now to recycling bins for most of us. We all know that most of what has been collected will go into the trash bins, which is basically irresponsible and actually stupid. Between our city or county or whoever, we must have the bins. Canceling them is a backward move. As I said, it's stupid. Please do something to keep these bins. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Phil Dennis?
My name is Philip Dennis, 1113 45th Street, Rock Island. Alderman Paulos is my representative. I want to thank Alderwoman Gilbert for engaging in a conversation and encouraging me to step up and speak, along with obviously a lot of other folks who are interested. The green sheet, and we have extras. Anybody need a green sheet on what I'm going to say? Okay, Dorothy, would you help me here? The lady in purple back there? Okay. Okay, did everyone on the council get a green sheet? Okay, yeah, just indicate, and Dorothy will help me. Obviously, as Chuck has mentioned, the recycling has taken a big step back in Rock Island. And so the question is, what has happened? Members of the council may be cognizant of more information than the general public, but several of us have gone back to review the information that was the basis of this decision of closing in 3 days the 4 recycling centers on Illinois drop-off sites. This history at the beginning is based upon reading the minutes from the City Council and from the Rock Island County Waste Management Authority, or RCMA. Back in 2020, in July 21st, RCMA eliminated the drop-off recycling subsidy, which had assisted Moline, Milan, East Moline, and Rock Island with some of the costs associated with hosting the countywide drop-off sites. We're talking about a countywide program, and so RCMA dropped the subsidy. This year, in May, Gina McCullough of Bi-State, RCMA being a part of the Bi-State programming, presented 3 options to the agency to ensure that RCMA could maintain a 3-month reserve as suggested by its auditors. Their curbside grant, which had been in the previous year, dropped, providing assistance for establishing curbside recycling because all the member communities, the 13 member communities of RCMA, already had that program. So after Gina had presented these proposals, there were no additional ones, but the 3 that are listed apparently, according to the minutes, were the ones that the agency was going to consider. 1, to eliminate the SWAG, or solid waste assistant grants, awarded to the members, communities of the board. That would be 13. 2, to eliminate hazardous waste household materials program. That was eliminated because the board didn't want to discuss that. And 3, closing down the 4 drop-off sites, Moline, Rock Island, Milan, and East Moline. What it really came down to was $100,000. Since RCMA needs to be funded only with the tipping fees from the landfills, the 2 landfills in the county, this limitation of $100,000 was an either or. So it came to either eliminating the SWAG grants or the drop-off centers. So on June 14th, Mayor Tomes asked the council to provide guidance to the city representative to RCMA as to which of the 2 remaining options they supported. And the minutes of the meeting do not indicate any clear direction provided to the Rock Island representative. The discussion touched on a lot of issues, but there was no clear direction according to the minutes. So the next day, on the 15th, 16 hours later, the city, this meeting of RCMA, after the city council meeting, met and voted to eliminate drop-off recycling. Rock Island cast its 78 votes. There's a weighted voting system based on per capita population to eliminate the program. There were 7 voting members present, 6 were absent from the RCMA board, and 146 of the weighted votes were needed to eliminate, which provided just a bare, that's the quorum, a bare majority to pass. Now all of our recycling centers in Rock Island County are eliminated as of the 30th of September. As the public has become more and more informed, as they drop off items at the local centers, they see a posting by RCMA saying these will be closed, or when other people who know about it tell other people, this has become a crisis in terms of how we deal with the green issues in our county. Not everybody has recycling door-to-door possibilities. However, I propose that this decision is wrong because of the following reasons. One, neither the City Council nor RCMA really asked for public input and discussion on the issue. Yes, there was some discussion among the representatives with their constituencies on the council, particularly those who are maintaining the sites in the 4 communities were involved in giving some input. However, I think it's a broader issue and needs more full discussion by the public. The second reason is the decision was made only in the context of budgetary considerations. Apparently, according to the minutes, there were no mention of really the impact upon the environment or upon the attractiveness of our Quad City communities, particularly on the Illinois side, if we don't have some sort of access to recycling for citizens who are not able or cannot afford the curbside recycling. Number 3, the only options for recycling now are curbside, although not available to all our rural communities or our multi-resident housing communities. So there's a whole constituency that doesn't have any recycling possibilities, or traveling to Iowa to use the Scott County Recycling Center. And who knows how long that will be available for the Rock Island County folks. And then number 4, there's apparently no possibility of keeping these sites open because RCMA has already paid Republic Services, which does the blue bin pickup, the termination of their contract and paying the $7,000 fine. We discovered that a few days ago when we attended the meeting. 25 citizens showed up to express their concerns about the loss of these sites at the last RCMA meeting. So basically, the other part of it is it's really Rock Island. Rock Island has been a leader in the environmental responsibility of trying to work for a sustainable, immediate approach. Matter of fact, probably your study session just prior to this was dealing with the green issue. But I think, as you see in the bold print here, we're talking about otherwise. The material many now recycle is going to end up in trash bins and then off to the landfill at best, or along our waterways, our roadways. This is actually a return to the old days, days prior to Earth Day, 50 years ago. I'm pleading with you, let's figure out a way to bring back the bins. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Lori? Then Eric, you'll be on deck.
Good evening. I'm Lori McCullum. I live in Rock Island. I'm in a condo, and I don't have access to the curbside services here because I'm clear at the end of a far lane, and there's no way I could roll the bin all the way down to the street. So I use the drop-off recycling centers every other week, and I take 2 full containers of recycled products. Now, I'm motivated, so I'm going to go over to Scott County with my waste, but I don't think most people will. So this is very unfortunate. I'm here representing Progressive Action for the Common Good, which is one of the 4 groups that helped write an op-ed that was in the Argus back in August, expressing concerns about this decision. Other members included Chad Pergracki of Living Lands and Waters, Rich Stewart of the Rock Island Soil and Conservation District, and this Sierra Club Eagleview chapter. So there's widespread concern across the Quad Cities from different environmental groups about this decision. My understanding from talking with the bi-state coordinator of this program is they collect 80 tons of waste every month. That's almost 1,000 tons of waste a year. And most of that's now going to go to the local landfills. I think the state regulations for funding this program are crazy because they get the tipping fees to pay for the recycling program. So if more waste is diverted from the landfill By recycling, that lowers the tipping fees, which then doesn't provide enough money to pay for the recycling programs. Surely there must be some way that elected officials can figure out how to solve this problem. I don't understand why CARES grant money couldn't have been used for this. They said that part of the problem was that the tipping fees were down due to COVID. Isn't that what the CARES money was for? I was told by their representative that their particular facility isn't eligible for CARES money, but I don't quite understand why the cities representing that board can't offer CARES money to help reduce that $100,000 of lost revenue. Also, I just want to mention that this problem isn't going to go away. The majority of waste in those bins, and I use them all the time, are cardboard, paper, and plastic. Plastic is up 50% in the last decade, plastic production, and it's predicted to go up 3 times in the next 2 decades. There's no way that a person who wants to recycle has enough space in their recycle bin for 2 weeks' worth of their recycling. I've never have. Back when I used the drop-off program, I still had to take extra, particularly the large cardboard pieces, to the drop-off sites. And it would be great if, like some of the other cities in the Quad Cities, Rock Island would even consider giving everybody, every citizen, a recycle bin, like they do in Moline and Milan and some other places, because that would increase recycling, but that's a separate issue. Anyway, I really would like to see the City Council consider some other ways to help solve this dilemma. It's my understanding that if just one person who voted no on that decision changed their mind, they would have to revisit this. Now, I don't know if there's timelines involved or what that would entail, but that's what I was told. One person, because there were 2 people who voted against it already. So thank you for your consideration, and I'm hoping we can resolve this problem.
Thank you, Lori. Eric and Shirley Johnson is on deck.
Hello, my name's Eric Johnson. I'm a resident of rural Rock Island County, but my life has been enriched by the city of Rock Island since I was a youngster at Southwest Branch Library with read-alongs, through parket board recreation with soccer and tennis, and then I worked 2 summers in college for our great city's public works department, get my footing in engineering, and I'm a successful engineer now for, I won't say because I don't want to affect my employer. But anyway, I'm a government employee. So anyway, what I'm here today is to support and echo the concerns that the previous speakers had mentioned. Curbside, as we've just heard, is not the end-all. Cardboard, as we all know, during the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, online shopping has shot through the roof. We all get bulk deliveries to our houses with huge pieces of cardboard that aren't going to fit in these curbside containers. So we need a solution for bulk cardboard. That's plain and simple. Also, there's those that can't afford to do the curbside recycling. There's a cost associated with that. And if people want to do the right thing, shouldn't we enable them to do the right thing? Then also, interesting, Vern Winter, one of your established colleagues from the past, showed up at the RICMA meeting last time and provided some great historical background. And it's interesting, these swag grant money, originally, way back in the 90s and early 2000s, the tipping fees were huge. I mean, the income from tipping fees. And so they had extra money, and so they wanted to put to good use, so they started these swag grants. And so it was more for a surplus of funds. Since then, the municipalities, and so the swag grants go to municipalities to support solid waste, achievements and projects. But now, they've become dependent on it, and then we hit this blip on the road with COVID, and their tipping fees went down, and like we've heard about the financial situation. But it seems like, swag was intended for surplus and not for baseline core responsibilities. And so that's where, this recycling needs to be handled as one of their baseline responsibilities as it was originally intended. So then, also I just want to echo that, Rock Island's always been an excellent leader in environmental stewardship, long-term thinking, doing the right thing. And of those, there's 13 board members for that RICMA, and only 4 of them voted no. Many of them were absent or others, so you can get a sense that that wasn't really a a majority of members, but it's based out on population, and so we understand that. And lastly, I mean, as we know for a bellwether of what's right and what's wrong, I look to Chad Pogracki, right? I mean, Chad represents the best of our community and what we should do for recycling and doing good for the environment. So if Chad's for it and bringing back the bins, I'm for bringing back the bins. And I ask for the city and RCMA to reconsider their decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Shirley Johnson, Dorothy Beck, you'll be on deck.
Well, I've always been thrilled with what Rock Island has done. I'm serving on the sustainability and technical task force right now, and they've moved ahead with energy efficiency for the operation of the city with a performance contract, and tonight we just heard about solar for the buildings, for the city buildings. So, Rock Island has always been very progressive as far as the environment, even going back to Mayor Schwiebert. It'd be disappointing to see us, eliminate the drop-off centers.
Thank you, Shirley. Dorothy, as a reminder, folks who are wanting to speak on the McDonald's or the 31st Street parking, that will be done during item number 24.
Those who have spoken before me are eloquent and correct, I believe. I have only one thing to add for my part, and that is that it is pretty clear that this is a responsibility that the Solid Waste Management Authority is not going to take on anytime real soon. So it is up to the Rock Island City Council to explore possibilities that will make it possible for citizens, not just of Rock Island, but of the entire county, to dispose of their recyclable waste in a responsible and environmentally sound way. I would therefore ask that you seriously consider conducting a study session on this issue and exploring other alternatives, because I think we will not be getting anything from bi-state. One of the members that was attending the RCMA meeting last week suggested taking up collections to get the $100,000, and we were basically told that their hands were tied and they could not accept it. So we think there must be alternatives, and we implore you to explore them, because it's too late to reconsider your vote. Thank you.
I have a Terry or a Tony Lindquist from Moline. Is there anyone online that would wish to speak that are attending virtually? *6. There is no one out there? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question of our Public Works Director regarding this matter. So right before I came this evening, a constituent called me, Mike, and because the drop-off sites are closing on Thursday, she had signed up for curbside recycling, but then was told that the recycling carts are not available. They didn't know when they would be available. So she had asked, is there a possibility to keep the drop-off site going until we get our next shipment of recycling carts? Could you elaborate?
So Republic Services is certainly not immune to the supply chain issues that are ongoing currently with the country. I did receive notice tonight after you had asked me about this topic, and they have arrived. So anybody that signed up for the curbside recycling service will be able to get a cart as soon as maybe tomorrow if they start delivering tomorrow. So we do have carts available through Republic Services. I attended that last board meeting, and I understand that the drop-off center is going to be stopping October 1st. It was September 30th. They will be picked up by the company that's providing the drop-off recycling on October 1st. So where we go from here, that's a board question for RCMA. But again, I don't think anything would happen this current year. I think they would be looking into 2022 for any changes. But again, I'm just reiterating what I've heard in the meetings.
I've had constituents offer to pay a fee for the drop-off sites, and I know there is a big issue with the amount of staff time that it takes to clean up the site and that cost, but they've offered to pay, they've offered to go and clean it up. They think that the current location has more dumping problems than when it was on, off of 24th Street near where our new filtration facility is.
So we had dumping issues no matter where the locations are, whether it was at 16th Avenue at the water plant or if it's down where it's currently at. We spend hours weekly on that. I provided you some numbers. We spend about, just on an average, about $35,000 a year between our labor, tipping fees, doing the maintenance for the facility. We've had to install security cameras for the illegal dumping. We've also, we're getting TVs, we're getting anything, we're getting the recycled product, but then we're also getting lots and lots of items that are not recyclable. TVs, couches, beds, you name it, we get it. And it's a regular occurrence, and after a long weekend, we spend, again, hours cleaning up the site.
Thank you.
Item number 7? Other business.
Could we have Eagle Point come up so we could finish?
Do you want the slides back up?
I
Or
don't
were
know
there
if
more
we'll need
slides,
them.
or? No, okay. Okay, good.
I just have 2 questions. So if the city were to move forward and a PPA is drawn up, and when the numbers are finalized, do you guarantee those savings?
Well, the savings are based on projections. So the projections of the production of the array and the projections of utility rates. So we can't guarantee the savings. The biggest thing there is going to be the production of the array, which is affected by weather. And we do a lot of work to make sure that we're looking at things. So one of the things that we do is we look at the nearest weather station, and it will, there's software that downloads into what we use to do our production reports, and it will predict how many sunny days, how many cloudy days, how many days that these things have snow on it, and so on and so forth, based on 25 years of weather data. But we all know the past doesn't always tell the future. So that's the biggest thing there, that we can't guarantee those savings because the production is based on a variable that's outside our control.
So is there a more favorable timeline? Because you had mentioned something earlier about the bill that just passed. Can you speak to like the next steps in the process and how that bill may affect the timeline?
Sure. So just to take a step back, there was a program called the Solar Renewable Energy Credit Program in the state of Illinois. And for the last few years here, essentially, this all started with the bailout of the nuclear power plants from the utilities. The state bailed them out and said, hey, in return, you're going to need to do this for us. So they started this SREC program. Essentially, the utilities bill their customers a very small amount per kilowatt hour charge on their bill that goes towards this program. The program then is managed by a third party. It's not state funds, but anybody who builds a solar array, whether it be a municipality, a business, a private homeowner, they were eligible for these solar renewable energy credits. To the typical business, homeowner, municipality, those credits really don't mean anything. But the utilities need those credits to stay on track for the state's goal, their renewable portfolio standard goal. So the utility pays into this funds, those funds get paid out to people, and then the utility assume those solar renewable energy credits. So that program was going on for the last 3 years here, and it ran out of money. Well, technically it didn't run out of money, there's money there, but there was a review process that they were going through. That program then got tied in with the omnibus bill, which recently passed, and it's kind of up in the air right now as far as what changes are going to be made to that program. So we don't know exactly how that's going to be. We do know that there's a particular rate. So the way the SREC program works is you are paid per kilowatt hour a particular amount. So let's just say it's 4.5 cents for every kilowatt hour that is produced from the solar array. And they pay you for 15 years worth of production. If it's under 10 kilowatt, you get the payment in year 1. If it's above 10 kilowatt, it's paid over 5 years. We know that that rate is locked in right now through the waiting period. So right now, anybody, since these funds were depleted, anybody who built a solar array goes on a waiting list. So if you're on that waiting list, we know that that rate is locked in for those people. What we don't know is once the waiting list is closed and new rules are released, we don't know what impact that will have on those rates. That's a question mark. They're in review right now looking at the terms of the SREC program.
I have a question. Is this the proper time? I mean, if we're going to do an RFP, if this is something that the council wants to look into, and they would be a potential vendor, is this a fair time to have this discussion, or should it go at a time when there's an RFP presented?
Well, if you remember, this was part of the Johnson Controls project, and Johnson Controls project, they vetted the vendors.
So they
and
are
went through a
acting on
process, and
Johnson
this is their
Controls.
recommended vendor.
That's what I
so-
needed to know.
And this is part of the puzzle of the whole performance contracting puzzle, a piece of that puzzle, part of all the other energy upgrades. Solar was one of them, correct?
This was the last section, basically.
Right, but I
Yes.
wanted the public to realize that we're not violating
No, it
any
went-
bidding process
Went
with
through
an
a whole
RFP.
vetting process, and I've talked to another different vendors over the years, and so we've talked to quite a few people.
So I have a question. What is the risk to the city that in year 7, the holder of the PPA would determine that they no longer wish to be in that position because the tax credits to them have expired? So what would be the exposure to the city, say at the end of year 7, if that person, entity would decide they don't want it? Would the city then be forced to purchase it?
So the contract would be for 25 years. So the investor is bound for the 25 years. The city does have that option after year 7. If they wish to purchase it outright, that is an option that the city has. However, the investor does not have an option of getting out early and basically staking the city with the bill. So really the risk to the city, there's not much of a financial risk. I talked a little bit about this SREC program. There is an application process that does have a charge to it. It is $10 per kilowatt AC. So when we add up all of these sites to submit those applications, that adds up to a little over $14,000 between the 15 sites. We're looking at $14,192. So when I say that's a risk, it is a financial outlay by the city. However, in return from that, those SRECs go to the investor, who then is able to give a better rate and then greater savings to the city. Other than that, you're looking at the real estate. So if you wanted to do something on top of a building that had that array on there, you wouldn't be able to do that. If there's a ground array and you decide 10 years in the future that you wanted to use that ground for something else, you're locked into that for the period of time of the PPA. That's really the only risk to the city. And that's all spelled out in the contract. So typically kind of the progression of things is we go, we review, we analyze all of the sites, we come up with the numbers, we present those. If the council feels that those numbers look favorable, the next step would be to present a contract for the city attorney to review. Again, that's not locking the city into anything. It really is just reviewing the terms of the contract to make sure that there's nothing that the city attorney finds puts liability or risk towards the city. Once that gets worked through, then at that point, the city determines whether or not they determine that this is a good deal and that they want to enter into the contract. So that's kind of the progression that we take. We want to make sure that before any documents are signed, that everybody knows exactly what we're getting into, what we're signing off on, and then once it's signed, then that's when things start moving.
So do you have any idea of how much time there will be before the waiting list is closed?
Unfortunately, no. When the bill was passed here, I think it was the week before last, that was kind of, okay, now things need to start moving. I want to say that they're being reviewed over 90 days to come up with the new rules of the program. What I don't know is when they will close the waiting list. If it will wait until 90 days when those new rules are released, or if it'll be 3 weeks from now that they close that waiting list. Again, what we'll do is, again, first and foremost, have a contract reviewed to make sure that everything looks good. If the city enters into that contract, there will be a stipulation in there that it is based on the PPA rate being the 4.426 cents. I don't know it off the top of my head. If that rate is something other than that, the city has the option to step back and say, hey, we need to take another look at this. It also gives the investor the option to take a step back and say, hey, if the SRECs go down in value, then I'm not getting as much of a return as the investor. I need to review this to determine whether or not the current terms make sense.
And so is there a contract readily available for the city attorney to review, or will that take several weeks to prepare, or?
No, so we're using an investor that we've used a number of times. They have a standard contract. Probably within a week or so, I could have a copy sent to the city for the attorney to review. And then we realize there's a process there that if there's questions, if there's wording that needs to be adjusted or changed, we kind of work our way through that process. And then at the end of that process, once the city attorney and the investing group come to a conclusion on the way that the contract is worded, then at that point, then that's typically turned back over to the council to say, from the city attorney's standpoint, there's nothing in here that creates any problems. If they'll bring it to the attention of the council if there is anything that they might be concerned of. At that point, we would work our way through that process to determine if those things are too big of an obstacle to overcome and we decide that we just don't move forward on it, or is there something that we can do to help overcome those challenges, and if so, then we work that way through that process until it comes to a vote from the council.
Any other questions? Okay.
We've been waiting for this for a long time.
And again, like I said, there's no obligation by the city if they want to review a contract to determine the terms and have that turned over to the city attorney for review. That's something we can do. It's just if there's discussion, I'm not sure if that requires a vote or not, but all it takes is a call from Randy to say, hey, have a contract put together for the city attorney to review. We'll get that off to Randy. He can pass it along to the appropriate parties, and we can just take it one step at a time.
Randy, does that require a vote?
It does not, no. So we're gonna move,
I get it.
so we're moving forward.
Yeah, I'll just get a contract and we'll start reviewing it.
And the sustainability committee has
They
said,
have, so Shirley got back to me, and
do you want to make any comments, Shirley? Okay. Appreciate you and the work that committee has done to help advise us on this. Yeah.
and I don't have word back from all of the committee yet, so I will get that, and that'll be part of the input.
Well, and this would be a good time if there are other citizens out there that have any comments to make sure they contact their ward representative so that we can properly represent them.
It's a great idea. How much time, what's your time frame on time to having a contract signed?
I don't have a time frame necessarily. Let's get the contract and take a look at it, and we'll review some other things at the same time and get it moving.
Thank you.
I'll have a contract drawn up, and as soon as it's completed, I'll have it sent off to Randy for him to pass along for review.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
You can.
Were there any other items and other business that council members wanted to bring up?
We have
What about Hauberg?
Halberg.
Did
Yep.
do you feel that you got adequate time to talk with us about, for Hauberg?
Deb,
We didn't have any
did you want any
questions.
more time for Hodberg?
I just have one question on one of the last slides. So the architect said the ADA bathroom project was $162,000, give or take. And I think you had said for some of those same things that were on that same slide, Friends of Hauberg had raised like 57,000 or something.
We have, no, actually, we have, so the cost that we're putting in is close to about 130,000. Some of those have been completed already. The 160,000, it was at 113 with 20, I think that was including the architectural fees at that time. But since we have developed that, everything's gone up like 35%. It's crazy. For example, we're getting a cutout for the door, for the egress door in the classroom. And the cost of the door stayed the same, but just to cut out the brick, when we got the proposal in 2019, it was $3,700 to cut out the brick and put the sill in, the limestone sill. We just had them look at it again, it's up to $5,800.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question.
It's crazy, and we get 3 bids, and, you know, the other one was $7,700 2 years ago, so 58 was actually pretty good. But yeah, it's gone up tremendously.
So of the $162,000 cost for the ADA bathrooms, how much
I'm sorry, go ahead.
will Friends of Hauberg be contributing towards that?
That's our cost, when we put down the 50, I think it was the 52,000 and the 82,000, that's our cost to get that first floor done. So that's just the ADA bathroom portion. And the reason it is so high, like I said, 24,000 of that was architect and design, I do believe. The rest of it, well, it was 113 and then take off the 24, but it has gone up significantly, almost $40,000 since we did that budget.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So of the 162,000, because Friends of Hauberg is doing all this other work that needs to be done, and that
So that first floor,
$30,000 you're putting into that, so you will not be contributing per se to that $162,000 cost.
correct.
I just want to be clear.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's in addition to. Yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of that is mechanical because it was all removed.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
For the sake of how our agenda item is, I'm just going to keep with the numbers that are printed. Is that okay with you?
Of course.
Okay, item number 7.
Minutes of the September 13th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Move to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker,
Aye.
Poulos,
Aye.
I don't know, I wasn't
Ro-
involved in it.
Do we have discussion?
Robinson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Nay.
Swanson,
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye. Item number 8.
I'm sorry, 6-1 motion carries.
Item number 8.
Minutes of the September 13th, 2021 executive session.
Move to approve the executive session minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker,
Aye.
Poulos,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 9. Update Rock Island. Update Rock Island. Number one, we have a couple items at the Quad City Botanical Center coming up. Celebrate Halloween for the fall harvest at the Botanical Center this Sunday, October 3, from 1 to 3. Paint a pumpkin to take home. One pumpkin is provided per youth ticket and youth member ticket and advance ticket purchasers. Walk-in welcome and additional supplies while they last. It's free for members or with paid admission. It's on Sunday. Dogs out at the garden. Bring your furry, four-legged friends for a stroll on Sunday, October 10, from 11 to 5 p.m. The Black Hawk State Historic Site has a Holy Stumpkin on October 9 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Come to the Black Hawk Historic Site as they host the pumpkin carving, hot dog roast, and s'mores at the north side of the park at the Fire Circle near Singing Bird Lodge. There will also be pumpkin carving contest, and pre-registration for the contest is required. Visit the website or call the park office at 309-788-0177 for details. Item number 3, back by popular demand, the leaf collection program starts again on October 11. The city will provide leaf collections for its residents Monday, October 11 through Friday, December 3. Customers must place leaves in the approved paper yard waste bags and place on their normal garbage collection location or the regular scheduled collection day. The leaves will be picked up. You can pick up your city-furnished bags for this program at no cost at various locations throughout the city. I know from hand the King Center is one, or South Rock Island Township, and the townships are another, and also your city hall. The Rock Island Library offers free electronics recycling drive and community secure shredding on Thursday, October 7 from 11 to 2. Residents can dispose electronics for free in the downtown parking lot. For a list of these accepted items, please visit the Rock Island Library website. On Saturday, October 9 from 10 to noon, citizens can bring materials that will be securely shredded at the downtown parking lot. For a list of those material handling and the amount limits, please visit the Rock Island website. And Deb, I'm going to impose on you for number 5. There's a big event at Hauberg that I'd like you to offer everyone today.
We partnered with German American Heritage Center, and we're going to be having Oktoberfest October 2nd, this Saturday, from 1 to 5. There'll be a vintage football game over in Hauberg Field, kids' games in the front yard, and then at 5 o'clock the bands start, authentic German bands, so there'll be a lot of fun from 5 to 7 and then from 8 to 10. You can get tickets. 1 to 5 is free, and then there's tickets on Eventbrite for pre-sale tickets are 10, and then at the driveway there'll be 15, starting at 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Deb. Item number 10.
Proclamation declaring September 2021 as Lost Potential Month in the city of Rock Island, Illinois. The mission of Have Life Foundation is to prevent lost potential of youth through support of participation in athletics, music, and the arts. Have Life seeks to allow all youth to experience life in the fullest, increasing exposure to positive community influences and enhancing the development of a positive and confident approach to citizenship. Whereas the month of September has been designated as Preventing Lost Potential Month by the Have Life Foundation, and whereas Preventing Lost Potential Month is to be an annual month of celebration and provides a renewed focus on the importance of and dedication to educate, encourage, protect, and develop our community's youth. And whereas the Have Life Foundation serves as an advocate for all schools, nonprofit organizations, sports clubs, civic organizations, government programs, and religious institutions that place emphasis on valuing and caring for youth. And whereas this month initiates an ongoing movement to make the city of Rock Island and the Quad Cities community the best place in the nation for youth. And whereas the city of Rock Island, Illinois, and the Quad Cities community recognizes that this effort is successful because of the partnerships the Have Life Foundation has formed with residents, businesses, and community organizations.
Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Dave Geenan, Mayor Pro Tem, and the City Council here at the City of Rock Island, Illinois, designate September as Preventing Lost Potential Month in support of this valuable dedication and demonstration of the commitment to our youth, not only in Rock Island, but in the Quad City community. Prevention Lost Potential Month. dated this 27th day of September, September 2021. So we have someone from Have Life. Is it Kelly? Would you like to say a few words? And
Good evening. My name's Kim Guy. I'm the president of the Have Life Foundation, and Dave Parketti, one of our founding board members, is here with me tonight. I'd like to, on behalf of the Have Life Foundation, thank you so much for this proclamation. We have been in the Quad Cities, for those of you who don't know much about us, we've been in the Quad Cities for 13 years. Our nonprofit was formed in memory of Hunter Aaron Vondran, a young man who lost his life, our founder, Mike Vondran's son, at the tragic age of 13. And he started with his family, the foundation, along with our board members. And our main goal is to raise funds to help at-risk youth participate in music, sports, and arts where they might not ordinarily be able to. And to date, in the Quad Cities alone, we've raised $1.2 million and helped over 11,000 kids achieve those. So thank you for recognizing this, and we're hoping to continue to elevate the conversation around the youth of the Quad Cities and help them succeed, because while they're only 25% of our population now, they are 100% of our future, and we appreciate your support tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me double fist this here. I'm gonna do one. There you are.
I know from my experience in the philanthropic community that it takes everyone working together, and Have Life has made such a huge contribution to our community, especially in Rock Island, so thank you. Item number 11.
Presentation of the 2021 Rock Island Citizen of the Year Awards.
Grace Shirk and your committee, please come up and the floor is yours. Yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear me, and I'll take off the mask. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm excited to be here once again to help present the awards for the Citizens of the Year on behalf of the City of Rock Island. My name is Grace Diaz Shirk. I am a former member of the Rock Island City Council and a member of the Rock Island Labor Aid Parade Advisory Board. I apologize this took so long tonight, but there was a lot of important city business to take care of. The City of Rock Island is a leader in recognizing that our greatest asset and our greatest resource is the people. You, all of you, every one of you can make a difference and do make a difference in our city and to our fellow residents. We started this program back in 1987. As a way to say thank you and to show our appreciation to those of you who stand out, who work hard, and who make Rock Island the great place that it is to live. Each year, the committee takes nominations, then select the winners for the current year. I have to express a special thank you to the mayor, the city council, the city manager, and Samantha Ganji for keeping this program going and for recognizing the value of our residents. The Rock Island Labor Day Parade Advisory Board also recognizes these wonderful residents by asking them to be a special part of our guests a special part of our parade and be our special guests. The overall citizen each year is invited to be the Grand Marshal of our parade. The Rock Island Labor Day Parade Advisory Board will continue this program on behalf of the City of Rock Island And we'll be inviting all of you to send in your nominations in the future. Did you know that you don't have to wait until the program begins? You send in your nomination the minute you see somebody out there doing a wonderful thing to make a difference in our city. Send an application, send a letter into our city clerk, and year-round, and we will hang on to it until the voting begins. This year, we have another outstanding group of residents that are being recognized. I would like to invite members of the parade committee to come up and introduce our winners. So let me just say real quick, when they come up and they introduce each of the winners, if the winners could come up here and stand while we read how wonderful you are. I know you want to do that. And then we would like you to stay up here so that we can get a group photo for the city. Okay? So, presenting the awards tonight are Edna Sowards, Bill Sowards, come on up, guys, Mary Chappell, Art Milton, Patricia Vincent, and our new to-be city clerk, Samantha Ganji. If you'd all please come up. So the first one presenting the awards tonight will be Edna Sowards, and I'm going to ask our Mayor Pro Tem to come out and present the awards.
Good evening. My name is Edna Sowards, and I am part of the Labor Day Parade Committee. And I would like to present the Citizen of the Year in the business category, and Mr. Steve Wazel representing Liberty Packaging. Congratulations. For nearly 100 years, Liberty Packaging has served and invested in the Rock Island community. Liberty Packaging has continually supported Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center, including volunteering their time to maintain the property, entertaining children at the community events, serving breakfast to summer day campers, and donating special-made cardboard boxes to assist in the delivery of food at Thanksgiving for the thousands of residents of the Quad City community. Additionally, Liberty Packaging has secured grants from their corporate office for the Martin Luther King Center and sponsored events. So let's all congratulate Liberty Packaging as Citizen of the Year in the business category. Thank you, Liberty.
Just quick thank you to everybody for the award. We're very honored to receive this. But I want to say a special thank you to the community partners that we've been fortunate enough to support. They're the ones that are really making a difference in the community, and it's an honor for us to be able to do whatever we can to help support them and see the great impact they're having on the community. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Chappell, and I have the pleasure of recognizing the Citizen of the Year from the education category, Mr. Andy Campbell. Andy Campbell is a lifelong Rock Islander, graduating from Rock Island High School, where he was a football co-captain and baseball MVP. After earning his degrees from the University of Iowa and Western Illinois University, Andy taught physical education and science at Washington Junior High, where he also coached football and girls basketball. In 2007, he started teaching biology and chemistry at Rock Island High School and initiated a new course, Anatomy and Physiology. In addition to teaching science, Andy Campbell is also a volunteer coach with the high school softball program. He started a vegetable plant greenhouse at the high school and was named the Milan Boosters Club Volunteer of the Year in 2019. Andy currently serves as the Dean of Students at Rock Island High School, One of his teaching philosophies is, what can I do to make a difference today? Well, Andy, my nephew, the City of Rock Island would like to show its appreciation for the difference you have made to date in the lives of young people and students in the City of Rock Island and surrounding community. Congratulations.
Good evening. I am Art Milton and have worked at the Labor Day Parade all its life. I'm here tonight to present the award for the Citizen of the Year, the individual citizen, Thurgood Brooks. Thurgood was born and raised in Rock Island. He is a passionate and dedicated advocate for his beloved community. He currently serves on the Human Rights Commission, the Rock Island County NAACP, coaches football at Rock Island High School, and works at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center as a family advocate. Most recently, he worked with the City of Rock Island in establishing a Police Community Relations Commission, in an effort to improve relationships between the police and citizens. Mr. Brooks believes that inspiration is the best thing you can give someone, and he hopes to inspire others. Go to any Rocky football game, and you can see him doing exactly that. Thurgood, you are an inspiration to others, and for that reason, we want to congratulate you for all you do and recognize you as the Citizen of the Year in the category of Individual for 2021.
Good evening. My name is Bill Sowards, and I have both the honor and the pleasure to introduce the Citizen of the Year in Professional, the Honorable Justice Thomas T. Kilbride, retired Illinois Supreme Court. Justice Kilbride has been a champion for doing what's right for the citizens of Rock Island, Illinois for decades. His passion for advocating for those that cannot afford access to legal services started at a young age when he attended law school. He began his legal career providing free legal services pro bono to those in need. He followed his passion by serving in the South Rock Island Township and eventually worked his way up to Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. During his tenure on the Supreme Court, Justice Kilbride made a number of changes to benefit Illinoisans, including access to Justice Commission, which ensures everyone has access to the Illinois legal system regardless of financial status or other barriers. Additionally, Justice Kilbride was a charter member of the Illinois Pro Bono Center, volunteered his time with the Community Caring Conference, supported faith-based and humanitarian projects, and served on the Rock Island Human Relations Commission, to name a few. From myself, from the committee, we thank you, Judge Kilbride, for all you've done for our community.
Hi there. My name is Samantha Ganji. I am the new city clerk, and it is my honor to introduce an awesome employee, from what I'm told, Carlos H. Jimenez, if you can come up. 5 years, Carlos has served teens in the community by teaching them the skills they need to make good life decisions. As a certified specialist in drug prevention, he works at the MLK Center, where his duties take him to the Rock Island Milan School District classrooms, reaching about 1,800 to 2,000 youth annually. When he enters any school hallway, he's usually greeted by a student who is eager to share a story or information. Carlos is a founding member and active participant in the Cause Coalition and volunteers for the Rock Island Community Foundation, Rock Island Nest, and Viva Quad Cities. He is a proud employee of the City of Rock Island and is quoted saying, "Part of the reason I love working here is because we are, in a sense, raising children. We are part of their childhood and adolescent development. I am confident in our youth. I see great things coming up." We, the City of Rock Island, want to say thank you, Carlos, for all you do.
Hi, my name is Pat Vincent. I am here honored to give the award to our category of youth, Riley Jones. Riley is an inspiring young at such a young age. She is currently a junior at Rock Island High School, where she is a member of the National Honor Society, plays cello for the orchestra, and was recently chosen for the Metro Arts Apprenticeship. She inspires others with her artwork. Most recently was selected as winner of the Congressional Art Competition for Illinois 17th District for her Black Pride piece. This piece will not only be displayed at our nation's capital, but a mural was also recently painted in downtown Rock Island. Riley volunteers at the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center and is very passionate about her community. Riley, we want to thank you for your role model as you are for the other youths in our community. Congratulations.
Okay, I have one left, and I was asked to present it, and I'm honored at the privilege of doing so. I get to introduce the Organization of the Year and also the Overall Citizen of the Year, Project Now, under the direction of Executive Director Dwight Ford. Okay. Project Now has been a pillar in the community for 53 years. This organization works tirelessly in moving our most vulnerable populations out of poverty. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Project Now did not fall short of their mission in strengthening communities and working towards moving people out of poverty. When many organizations had to close their doors, Project Now figured out a way to keep the doors open and to continue serving our citizens. Under the direction of Executive Dwight Ford, Executive Director, Project Now provides a plethora of community services, including assistance with utilities and rent, food and nutrition programs, clothing vouchers, scholarships, assisting the homeless with securing housing, senior outreach, including meals and transportation, Head Start, and weatherization assistance, and that's just to name a few. There are many other services. Most recently, Project Now has partnered with the 14th Judicial Circuit Court in Rock Island, along with the Rock Island County Bar Association and Prairie State Legal Services, the Salvation Army, and others to develop an eviction diversion program. This goal is to help people stay housed once the governor's moratorium on evictions is lifted. Let me read you their mission statement, their vision, and you will understand why they were selected not only as Organization of the Year, but also as Overall Citizen of the Year. We envision the whole community working hard, working hand in hand to meet human needs, protect human dignity, and restore hope. How can we say thank you enough for all the hard work and the difference you make to our city, our citizens, and every one of those who need help and need hope? On behalf of the City of Rock Island, we extend our appreciation and thanks to Dwight Ford, the Executive Director, and to the entire staff of Project Now. Thank you. Okay, then if we could get pictures, we'll get Dwight in the middle if we could. And I would just like to remind you all, every one of these people are outstanding. It's so difficult to choose one overall, but please give them all one last round of applause.
Well, yeah,
That's how you do.
yeah, I am actually. Thank you. I don't really do much. Nothing.
I am, sir. I sure would. Congratulations.
I guess no one did. That's fine. People can choose how they want it, I guess. Item number 12.
All right. Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding an additional exemption to the Code of Ordinances to allow for additional hunting in the southwest area of the city. Second reading.
Motion to pass the ordinance.
Second.
You want to just wait a minute? That's my fault for starting. To pass the ordinance in a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Item number 13.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding the sale of city-owned property located at 1229 Second Avenue, PIN number 073-510-1006, to Mr. Jacob Meisenbach for $1 plus closing costs. Second reading.
Motion to pass the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Item number 14.
Report from the Traffic and Engineering Committee regarding a request to ban parking on the west side of 29th Street south of 25th Avenue. Second reading.
Move to pass the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Item number 15.
Report from the Traffic and Engineering Committee regarding a request to ban parking on the west side of 10th Street and west between 79th and 83rd Avenues West. Second reading.
Motion to pass the ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Item number 16.
Claims A and B. A, report from the Human Resources Department regarding payment in the amount of $17,194.65 to David G. Morrison, City Attorney, for services rendered during the month of August 2021. B, report from the Public Works Department regarding payment in the amount of $1,605,744.00 to Johnson Controls Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, for services provided August 1st through September 30th, 2021.
Move to approve claims items A and B.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
And item number 18.
17.
17.
Claims for the week of September 10th through September 16th, 2021, in the amount of $526,802.04, and payroll for the weeks of August 23rd through September 5th, 2021.
Motion to allow the claims and payroll.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0. Motion carries.
Item number 18.
ACH report for August 2021 in the amount of $2,513,297.25.
Move to approve the ACH payment.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 19.
Purchase card report for August 2021 in the amount of $55,627.80.
Move to approve the purchase card claims.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 20.
Report from the Public Works Department regarding an amendment to the existing intergovernmental service agreement with the Rock Island Arsenal to include an expansion of services not covered under the initial contract.
Motion to approve the amendment to the IGSA and authorize the mayor to sign the amended agreement.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Pulis?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 21.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding the purchase of tax auction property located at 1830 32nd Street as a candidate for the Homestead Program in the amount of $909.00. First reading.
Move to authorize the purchase and consider the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I would like to ask Miles Brainerd to come up and address this item. So Miles, first, could you tell us how many vacant properties that does the city own?
So a little bit of that depends on how we categorize our properties. Some of them are in the process of being combined, divided, all the rest of that. But it's somewhere just under 200 vacant residential lots and then a mix of business lots on top of it.
Okay, so I know there was, way back, there was a different policy for why they were acquiring so many properties. Is there a current plan for when we should acquire properties, how we're getting rid of these properties?
So in the past, just for a little background, one of the primary reasons that we came to acquire so many of these vacant lots is because that was our only way to ultimately demo dangerous buildings, substandard buildings, and the like. We had to take possession of them first in order to tear them down. More recently, laws have changed, and we're now able to tear buildings down that are in that kind of bad condition without taking possession of the property. That's a 2x2 process. It's much better that way. We, of course, don't have an interest in acquiring any more land. In recent years, we've also really refocused efforts on trying to sell off more of these lots, usually to adjacent property owners. Many of the lots are narrow, difficult to ever build on again. It's really good for the neighbor to get it so they can have an extra 20 feet of side yard. It used to be that when the tax auction cycle would come through, and you can look back maybe over the last decade just pulling up our records, any given year we might buy, between 8 and 16 different vacant lots, either because we thought they might have some utility to the city, were near other things that we owned, or we wanted to control certain areas for future economic development. A lot of that purchasing may have been a little overly hopeful. In recent years, we've begun to really dial that back and are purchasing much less than we ever really have. We've also really stepped up that sales effort. So in the last year, again, a little depending on how you count it, we sold between 10 and a dozen different city properties, and we intend to continue to do that to the greatest extent possible, staff time allowing. So going forward, in terms of developing policies that have to do with how we will decide what to acquire, what to sell, and the rest, that's something that CED is going to be focusing a little bit more closely on. Something that we hope to do before the end of the year is get a draft policy together to talk about why we might acquire things so that we can have a better framework for making some of those decisions. That a vacant lot becomes available and theoretically is buildable does not mean that the city should own it. that a lot may be near other things that we own is not a reason in and of itself to acquire it. So we're trying to be more mindful of this just in practice, but we hope to put that into policy soon as well.
Okay, so this property, you're hoping to also put into the pilot program similar to the other house?
So the idea here would be this. If the city council, after receiving our report on the pilot project we're currently working on and almost finished with at 15th Avenue, approves that program, if the council, having looked at that report, thinks it's a good idea to have that program in place and wants to move forward with it, then this property will go through that program. The tax auction only rolls around once a year, so we need to buy one now to be prepped for that if you give us the go-ahead. If you do not approve that program, then we will find an alternative method through a partner contractor organization to rehabilitate this house and get it back onto the market. So we'll go one of those two routes depending on what the council ultimately decides in regards to that homestead program.
So the current one in the program, though, you had bought it originally for demolition. Then staff decided it had good bones. Then council voted to spend $230,000 to rehab it. So this property here, you think is in fair condition, but, and I was not aware of this or needed to be reminded of this. So when you purchase a property through tax auction, you don't get to see the inside of it.
No, you do not, because otherwise you'd be trespassing. And we would never, ever peek in the windows and trespass on a house like this.
So you really have no idea the condition of the property inside.
Standing from the public right-of-way and observing some of the main elements of the house that would normally be red flags, looking at foundation corners, the roof, some of the exterior envelope elements, we don't see anything that would lead us to believe that the property is in such a bad condition it can't be effectively rehabilitated. It's also somewhat smaller than the project house that's on 15th Avenue. So we're hoping that it would be another good opportunity for us to experiment with the scope of that kind of endeavor. And again, the homestead program has not officially been approved by you, the council, yet. So I just want to clarify that if you were to approve the purchase of this property tonight and to not move forward with approval of that program, we would still have options for getting that house fixed up and put back into use. It's been vacant for quite a long time to the detriment of the neighborhood. Interestingly, when staff was there looking at it, trying to evaluate its condition from the street, a neighbor approached us and expressed their frustration with the property being vacant for so long. So one way or another, we hope that we can find a way to get it back into use, either through the homestead program, if you approve that, or by, for example, partnering with a contractor through a development agreement to get it rehabbed under their terms and sold off.
Miles, in your understanding and reading of the American Rescue Plan, is the homestead program an eligible expense of this money for the city?
So, you know, as has been discussed, a lot of the focus for those funds is for disaster preparedness and to take steps that help to fortify the community against future cataclysm. How you define some of that and how you stretch that is a bit of a policy question, so I would refrain from commenting too much one way or the other on
eligible?
that. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay,
I'd have to look into that.
Okay. Just in terms of future funding.
When we ask the question with ARPA, what is and isn't eligible, I'm sure the council is becoming increasingly aware that
well, it's
the answer to that question can waver a little bit.
And it's intended to do that. The homestead program provides affordable housing.
Certainly a thing to think about when we're talking about the use of those funds, and one of the things that can help to make a community more resilient is to ensure that there's less housing instability. Obviously, when a pandemic strikes and people suddenly are not sure if they're going to have a roof over their heads, they're not going to do well. But that would also be true in a lot of natural disasters as well. So, you know, if you think about it in that context, certainly housing to some extent could be a part of that. But I hesitate to comment more fully than that and emphasize it's ultimately the council, who will have to decide kind of how you split that up.
You're just kind of laying some ideas of opportunities.
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Lots of ideas out there.
So the purchase price is just for the house, and then
Yep.
you still need to come back with estimate on how much it would be to renovate the house, then, correct?
Again, if you ultimately approve the homestead program, it would go through a similar process to what you saw with that house on 15th Avenue. So what we would do is we would, if you approve that program, we'd go through the process of putting this out for bid, having put together an in-house cost estimate for what the rehabilitation would cost. Ultimately, the contractor who submitted a successful bid would put forward another number that would come before you for contract approval. At any one of those steps, of course, you could say, no, we're not paying that, or, you'd have multiple checks on that process, the same way you did with the pilot house.
And to clarify, the $230,000 that was referenced for the house on 15th Avenue and potentially the funds that would be used to rehab this one, those are federal. That's money that we get from the federal government, like through the CDBG program, correct?
Yeah, yes, and then I want to clarify that $230,000 number is the not to exceed amount.
Sure.
We've got one bill left to come in for that house. We're hoping will actually be well under the contract amount that was about 209. So we're hoping to actually come in under 209 at the end of the day. So that 230 is just the not to exceed amount in the contract.
Sure.
I don't think we'll even get close to that. So
My point being, no locally collected tax that the city of Rock
That is
Island has
correct.
collected paid for that house.
that's correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to consider here is if it were to go to tax auction, it would likely be bought by a landlord who would ultimately rent the property, and this is in a neighborhood where we're seeing more and more rentals, and this way we can assure it will go into a homeowner's hands when it's all said and done.
And that was interestingly a complaint that neighbor who approached us while we were surveying the property brought up as well. Just kind of the influx of rental properties into their neighborhood and the impact of that on their home values. So remember, when we're talking about a lot of our housing initiatives, it's all about kind of trying to stabilize, improve, make sure that neighborhoods have some sense of sustained value. A concern, of course, that we have is that different neighborhoods are starting to lose value over time because of the shift over to rental properties and ultimately kind of these vacant properties popping up and often being grabbed for use as rentals.
Well, just a statement and kind of a question. This is the second home then in the program, correct?
So again, the program has not been approved.
Okay.
But it would be, if approved, the first in the approved program. The pilot is just a pilot on itself to explore whether that program can work.
So just me personally, I just have mixed feelings about the program because I just don't think we have the expertise to go into this line of action. We're not, I don't think we're prepared to handle this. Maybe a different way could be dividing up the money that we're using for these projects to allow residents who own homes and have issues within their homes to apply for those funds to renovate their homes that way. Because I know we have a lot, especially in my ward, a lot of constituents who have a lot of homes, a lot of issues within their homes. The program that we currently have, we continue to run out of money. So I get a lot of questions. We're spending money on this, but maybe we can distribute that out more. Have you guys looked at that option? And okay.
Yeah, we look at all options. What we're trying to do is build a diversified program that offers a lot of different things. And again, part of the reason we were interested in doing the homestead program is because we see a lot of other cities undertake this exact kind of thing, and it helps bulk up their resume with HUD. And ultimately, when they demonstrate a capacity to do these larger scale projects, they are more likely able to access other funds, like home funds, which would allow them then to actually just build a house on the vacant lots that they have, right? So it's part of a strategic kind of outlook that we're interested in doing this, not just, we want to create one unit of affordable housing. To the question of would we be happy to see more funds go into our regular, rehab and repair programs, of course. If the council was interested in moving funds, we would never say no to that. Additionally, in terms of whether or not we have the capacity to do it, I would caution that we're not quite done with the pilot, and that's the point of the pilot, to fully understand what capacity we really have. So when we ultimately send that report on how the pilot project has gone to the council, you can look at that with all the data and the experience that we put forward into that and make that evaluation more clearly with some information on, how did we go about it? What were some roadblocks we faced? What were challenges? What were things that we learned? How did we control for cost? How did we kind of interpret all of the different regulations for that money, and how did that help us decide what we could and we couldn't do in the House? So I would say, what we hope to do is give you enough information so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not we have that capacity. Obviously, we believe that we do, otherwise we wouldn't have pulled it forward in the first place. But ultimately, our goal is to expand affordable housing, improve housing, make housing safe and decent in the community. We're open to many different ways to do that. But I would emphasize, and it'll be emphasized in the report, part of the reason we did this specific thing was that resume bulking, because we'd like to get some other funds, and we need to demonstrate capacity to use them.
I have to agree with Alderman Robinson regarding this, because I think one of your assumptions that was presented to council, I think before even this council, was basically flawed. You thought you would hope to inspire people who lived in the neighborhood to put money into their homes after they saw you fixing up a property in the neighborhood. But it's a low to moderate income neighborhood. We don't even know, and maybe from the data we're seeing from the assessment we heard about earlier, these people may be struggling to put food on the table. They have transportation issues. They have employment issues. And anybody who owns a home knows how expensive it is to put new windows, new siding, insulation, kind of thing in there. So, and I've asked this of people too, like, okay, how do you feel about this? Can you afford to put money into your home? And they're just irate about it. They're like, why didn't the city take that same amount of money and, divide it up among the homes on the street or something, or do like one side of the street one year and then the other side the next year? And I still would like to see that happen, that we help people who are already in their homes, help them get those homes fixed up and make them more livable.
Sure. So I'd say a couple of things in response to that. Certainly, staff don't have an expectation that suddenly someone down the street who's struggling to pay, their mortgage is going to dump a whole bunch of money into fixing their front porch or something like that. However, when it comes to more general things like making sure garbage is picked up, the lawn is mowed, keeping things nice and tidy, that is something people can reasonably do. And that's the sort of things that we've heard from our peer communities who have undertaken these projects. They don't see necessarily when they've completed a house that everyone on the block has suddenly done like a $20,000 renovation of their house. But they are maintaining them to the best of their ability in an improved fashion. The other thing, too, about spreading funds around is, of course, there are restrictions on the funds. So if we were to look at a given block, while it may be that some folks would qualify for assistance under the guidelines of HUD and CDBG funds, not all of them would, so it's a little complicated. Again, we're trying to see whether this thing that so many other communities are doing and working, in getting to work well, works for us. And the only way we were going to find that out is if we did it ourselves. Again, our goal here is to provide you a report, having done this whole thing. You will have all the information, then you as the council can make a decision about whether you think this is a good use of funds or not, with input from your constituents, of course.
And if we do decide, then we have a house potentially to put in that program.
Correct. And again, if you decide to not approve the program ultimately, we have other things we can do with this property to make sure that it is put back into use. We just want to make sure that if you do approve the homestead program, we have a house to rehab.
Absolutely.
I just think we want to be careful with our language in the way we are actually presenting the project. We want to be careful with the terms, pilot, experiment, because you have people who are really struggling and want to get their homes fixed, but they can't. But then they hear words like experiment. Well, you're experimenting with up to $200 and something thousand or whatever this potential project might be, and that puts a bad taste in their mouth when we can't help them, but we can experiment. So we have to be very careful how we display or how we put this project into fruition. I'm willing to help with anything, but I want to make sure that we're clear on how we're describing, because I didn't know what you just mentioned, that this potentially can help us for something down the road, and I'm pretty sure none of my constituents know that either. All they hear is the fact that they see what the city is doing with city money, and they can't get anything, or even if it's federal dollars, but they can't get any help.
Yeah.
So that's the pickle that they're in.
I think the thing that should be emphasized more than anything else is that staff and the council, I think, are on the exact same page when it comes to what our fundamental goals and objectives are, right? We want safe, affordable, decent housing for our residents. There are many ways that we can accomplish that. There's many different strategies we might undertake, programs we can devise. There's all sorts of paths we can take. Again, part of this project is trying to get to a place where we have more resources to help more people and to try and leverage this experiment, this endeavor, this opportunity to do that. So point well taken about the language one uses to discuss the project house. I appreciate that feedback.
So I know this is to build up so you can access the home funding through HUD. And that allows you can build new construction, and you can also...
On many of those lots we own, we could put down a house.
Yes. But, okay, you can do that. But can you use that money to, is that only for like vacant and rental, or not rental, but vacant property, build a new house, or like this house here, rehab that house? Or can you use that money to help owner-occupied homes fix up?
I would have to look very closely. Obviously, it probably could be used in a number of different ways. We could certainly provide council with a more detailed breakdown of how CDBG funds and home funds differ in what they can and can't be used for. Obviously, CDBG funds can only be used for the rehab work, not new construction. Home funds can be used for new construction. I'm not entirely sure what the restrictions might be off the top of my head for any sort of rehab work, but we can certainly look into it.
I can't remember because I researched it months ago.
Yeah,
but I remember it was allowed, new construction is allowed.
Again, the different pools of money and the rules that are associated with them are admittedly a little complicated, and it's easy to kind of, lose track of what can be used for what. But that's our goal, is to, if you have access to as many different sources of funding as possible, then you have all the greater opportunities to mix, match, and move forward on a wider range of activities and endeavors.
Well, when you find that out, if you'd let me know, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, we can certainly do that. I believe that there are some really helpful kind of shorthand, like 1-2 pagers from HUD that can kind of help lay out some of the basics. I'm sure some of you probably have stumbled across them. Just a quick Google search, a lot of them pop up. But we can certainly put something like that together for you.
Thank you.
I definitely appreciate your explanation of everything. I mean, just, I guess, in conjunction with what we heard earlier and what I've been a part with, what you've been a part with the West End assessment, these are exactly the issues that we're trying to work out. So we have people who are looking for these type of, this type of help. We need this for not only West End, but for the entire city. So I think if we work together and actually get that information out to individuals, it can lessen the blow of when they see things like this being approved or being worked. They can understand there's more coming down the line, and they're not going to be left out like they've been in the past.
Yeah, and again, like our goal putting together that kind of report on how the house on 15th Avenue ultimately turns out is to try and provide some of that information too. And there's certain things that you'll see kind of when we put it together that we've learned that would be applicable to some of our just regular rehab jobs. Certain things we've learned about how we could maybe better do something, save on projects a little bit, stretch the dollars out. So there's a whole lot of things that this has helped us to do, not just to figure out whether we can do a whole house rehab. So I'll have to come up with a better word than experiment. If you could help me out with that, Alderman Robinson, I'd appreciate it.
Miles, are you familiar with housing strategies. I'm hesitant to say like a housing plan, right? Because like a housing plan kind of means something, or at least I'm imagining like an impediments to fair housing, right? But I am aware of other communities developing a housing strategy plan, if you will, where basically something that I have observed regarding this pilot experiment, not experiment specifically, is just a real lack of communication and understanding both between staff and the council and the public and everyone else, right? And we have several programs, as you know, in your department, the emergency repair. We got this one. We got the targeted neighborhood one, which I'm a big fan of, right? And then in addition to that, we got Project Now. We got all these community entities that do this work as well. From a planner perspective, because you are our esteemed planner, do you see a need for us to take a step back and undertake a housing strategy to really sit back and say, what are the assets that we have, community, public, whatever, and what are the goals that we really try to want to get to? How can we measure them so that everybody's on the same page of like, why are we doing what we're doing? What can we do? What can't we do? Which would involve potentially like a public input session so that people understand our limitations or whatnot. From a planner perspective, do you think that is something that the council should consider that we invest in?
Some of that work has already been done and exists in documents which may not be as easily accessible to the public, and if I may, kind of the non-technical person. So to some extent, that does exist in a way. I think certainly it would be the case that we could do a better job of summarizing and communicating what some of that planning thought is for more people to get a better sense of what we're trying to do. This conversation about, that house on 15th Avenue, it's trying to lay out in simpler terms what it is we're trying to do. So we could certainly do that, is to kind of go through some of that planning that has been done and does already exist and see if it could be communicated more effectively. You also mentioned something about kind of partner organizations in the community. We do all interact with one another. We maintain dialogue and communication. Folks from Project Now refer to us. We refer people to Project Now, all that sort of stuff. That is often, though, happening kind of quietly between our various staffs. And so it may not be as obvious looking in from the outside that we have those partnerships and they're successful ones. So we could certainly spend the time to emphasize some of that and make it a little bit more forward-facing. More broadly, could we do something to help lay out more directly sort of what our longer-term housing goals are? That's something that we've been discussing and working towards. I hate to say something that I've said to the council a number of times over the last couple of years, but obviously when you're pulled in so many different directions with so many different issues, and you have some staff turnover and vacancies, it can be difficult to keep on track with things like this. It's kind of an example of something we've just been struggling to get back to and really nail down. But certainly, point taken, we need to do a little bit of a better job of communicating what we're about, what planning we have done, what we're working on, and sort of move in that direction of greater transparency with the public. And transparency isn't just putting information out there for people to read. Well, if it's some technical manual, that's not really transparent to me if I'm not, skilled in that area, right? Transparency is putting information out that is actually digestible by the common person, that anyone on the street could pick it up and go, oh, I know what that means. I know why we're spending that money. I understand what it's going towards and all the rest. And admittedly, sometimes it's hard to do that. Again, federal funds, federal red tape could be could be a little tough. But yes, we could certainly work in that direction and see where we can get to.
Well, I appreciate everything that your staff does. It is good work.
They work very hard, very, very hard.
Individually.
Maybe a little plug for the team. Again, this year we have met our target for our housing rehab and repair programs. A total of 35 houses will be we'll have completed rehab project by the end of this year, assuming we don't have any major issues with, material supply or anything like that. So that'll be the second year in a row, after many years of struggling to achieve that we will finally be hitting the target. Any other questions about this particular topic, specifically the purchase of this
I
house?
would only make a comment that I have been up in that neighborhood and have had several of the residents that live there concerned about the number of rentals up there, so having something that is that is owner occupied, I think would be a breath of fresh air for that neighborhood. So.
We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Miles. Item number 22.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a request from American Bank to vacate and convey to them a small section of 5.5th Avenue that cuts through their property at 1600 5th Avenue, Rock Island, Illinois. First reading.
Move to approve the request as recommended, that a utilities easement be put in place for the same, suspend the rules, and pass the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I will remind you that we'll be suspending the rules and passing this one. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 23.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a special use permit request for Ms. Sierra Morgan to use the former first-floor retail space of the structure at 4100 22nd Avenue for a children's up-to-high school age activity center and children's drop-off location for a not-for-profit organization, along with a candy/refreshment shop. First reading.
Move to approve the request as recommended and consider the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert? Swanson?
Aye.
Keenan?
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 24.
Report from the Community and Economic Development Department regarding a special use permit request for Dennis and Trina Gendron to make changes to the parking lot at 1826 31st Street. First reading.
I would like to table this until our October 11th meeting, to give the residents of that neighborhood more time to communicate with council and to give the requesters the opportunity to make some changes that will make it probably more amenable to the residents in that neighborhood.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to table it. We do have now time for discussion, and we do have people that signed up to speak. And we did promise them an opportunity to speak.
Dave, everything okay?
Well, I generally, we'd have two issues. I think my understanding of a motion to table is that there is not discussion with regard to a motion to table. On the other hand, we did have public comment where these folks had signed up to speak. So I don't think we can have discussion with regard to the motion to table. I suppose the only other option would be to reopen the public session after the motion to table is decided.
This is a first reading, so it's not passing tonight, correct?
That's my understanding, right? But my understanding is that my recollection from Robert's rules is that a motion to table is a non-debatable issue, is my recollection.
So you're saying vote on the motion to table and then open up discussion afterwards?
What I'm saying is I think it would have to be two separate things. If you wanted to reopen the public comment, I suppose you could do that. I've not run into that situation, but my belief is that you cannot debate and have the folks come up and talk with the motion to table. It's either they're going to table it or not table it. If it doesn't pass, then the folks would have the opportunity to speak. If the motion to table is passed, then postpone to a date certain, I guess would be the one.
Yeah. How's that?
To postpone to a date certain, that would be voted on without debate. That's my understanding of Robert's rules.
But if we table it, we can still open discussion and give them an opportunity to speak
I think you could, because they showed up and signed up to speak in the public, in the public comment, so I do believe that that could be done, a motion could
We
be
made
made.
them wait this whole time to speak their opinion. Yes.
Right, I'm just trying to tell you
No,
what
I
I think
agree. I
Robert's
agree with
rules
you.
requires with
Yes.
regard to, Ms. Gilbert, I'm sorry.
So in the guide we were given by IML, postpone to a certain time, interrupt, no, second, yes, debate, yes, amend, yes, vote, majority.
Okay,
All right, I'm
so
gonna-
are we, is it a motion to table, or is it a motion to postpone to a date certain? 'Cause
I'm going to withdraw my second. Can you change your motion to postpone and
I will
not
make a
table?
motion to postpone
And I'm going to
this
second
issue
that.
until October 11th, our second meeting, our first meeting in October.
And then, is there a second to that?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay.
So then now we have discussion
Correct.
on just that item.
Yeah, because it wasn't a table.
So now we can do public comment.
Well, now you can bring people up to comment about it.
Okay, now we'll have time for discussion. Dr. Simmer, you're signed up to speak. Rod?
I have to go with Mr. Morrison about that until if you guys are gonna postpone it, I don't need to talk right now. Gonna vote on this item, otherwise then we can talk about it, but I wanna see if he's brought up something different, I'd be more than willing to see what he's looking at before we even went any further with this. Like
I mean, you
I
don't-
have
you don't-
sent,
I think that council would like to hear from the neighbors, just to understand what, can't make you talk, but I think the council would like to hear from people, just to. Yeah, so it's postponed, so it is open for discussion.
No, it is not,
Yeah,
there's
it is.
not been a vote on
it hasn't been voted on yet, but that's the motion,
Right.
and it can be discussed.
I think council wants to hear from you, because you've been waiting all this time, and they're curious on what you have to say.
We have other people signed up as well besides this. So Angela and Dale, you'll be on deck.
There's some pictures. Pictures of the signatures we have from the folks in the neighborhood right now. We have 15 signatures. From the local neighbors. Those are just on the 31st Street. I didn't see a reason to go to 32nd Street. It really isn't such a problem on that street, although you guys have it marked on there. You sent them notifications to. Went down along 20th Avenue, went on 30th Street, the 4 houses down along there. You do notice on the example there, the one, I'm going to inform you on some of those. There's a couple houses that have sold, turnover of ownership there. One house on 30th Street, the Kalen house is just sold. So they aren't, nobody's in there at this present time. And the only people that I ever had that did not want to sign this petition, this thing was, we're not home. I mean, everybody I talked to signed it, would ask that we would not pass, that you guys would not pass this special use permit. Some of our problems are encroachment more into the neighborhood. You guys were talking about your property on 32nd Street, how you want to, improve the neighborhood, not have more rentals and stuff like that, try to make them ownership. You're starting to encroach more in that neighborhood. You're going to take a house that's a very nice looking house. They did a very good job remodeling it. It looks nice. They're using it for an office at this time, but it still could be a house. They lose their special use permit, whatever in the future that goes back. It's going to just be a plain parking lot. The people's houses, property across the street, it's not going to help their property values to have a parking lot there. People adjacent to it, just south of it, it's not going to help their property values. You're just encroaching more into the neighborhoods, I think being a detriment more than an asset to them. We also have, Dennis also talked about how 80% of his money comes through drive-throughs. Well, more parking is not helping his drive-through. More parking is just assisting in some movement around there. Some of our proposals I've thought about, is rather than putting the regular parking, make it parallel parking right there. May lose a couple spots, but not everything. We talked about some of in the neighborhood, the concerns that were brought up was the 18th Avenue corridor thing. Supposedly, miles, I think it's one point, that you can only go back one property beyond 18th Avenue. Well, they're already one property behind. There's go 2 properties beyond 18th Avenue, encroaching more into the neighborhood. And it's, like I said, it's not an 18th Avenue business. It's a 30th Street business. There's been other commercial vehicles parked in that thing, which he did move a trailer after that first meeting we had with the zoning folks. He did move it that night. There's still a van sitting there. It's for other usage. Another thing is the garbage we have around there. I know it isn't all him, but the problem is we do have, and almost all the neighbors I talk to have voiced concerns along with the neighbors right here. We have had terrible problems adjacent with them using the alley as a garbage can. The patrons just throwing it out. The Shell station has had to empty their trash cans 2-3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day, and it be McDonald's wrappers. The neighbors across, that's down a couple for them to blow by and all that. And we've asked multiple times to put in some more garbage cans. As you see in the pictures I sent around, there's one garbage can located in that whole thing that's right in front where you have to pull in, get out of your car, and walk up there and get it in. And this just set precedence of the fact is what he has told us and what he's done in the past, he has not followed through with. We're a little disappointed in that. We think every time we have dealt with him and the neighborhood has asked things of him, he has not followed through. There's been some other complications I had with him, never followed through with. The Mayor Tomes, when he gets back, you guys can discuss with him some of the issues we had in the past with that. It's not followed through. Other neighbors down the street on the 20th Avenue have been voicing a concern for decades. I think back in the 90s, the one gentleman was saying he was having issues with them encroaching more and more into the neighborhoods. They're just not happy with, fine, it does what it does, let it continue. When he expanded it, put that second drive-through in, great, expand his business, 80% that comes through, wonderful. But him expanding is not our problem, that he needs more parking now, is moving out. He did that second thing, and I understand going through there, they're creating 2 lines, and therefore you can't use that parking there because it can't back out because the second line in there. Totally get it. But needs to help him. The water issue we're having, water runoff. Steve's house right there in front, Handley's, their house right in front of their house. There's pictures in there of the water and the cars going through there. The city, you guys have not taken care of that at all. It's been a problem for a number of years. And when we have those deluges and those big, huge water runoff, he's got a lot of square footage there. I think you guys need to maybe relook at that too. If he has more parking, he's going to have to look at putting some kind of water retention thing. It's just too much if you allow that. Because right in 30th Street already, when a good rain hits, you can see on those pictures, I don't know how many have seen it yet, but the blocks they're showing are between these 2 guys' yard and some decorative landscaping, and it is clear up on that, 7-8 inches onto that above the sidewalk. So it's not in the street, it's run up onto the sidewalk and that much higher on them. So they're having a huge problem with water runoff. Puts another 12 parking spots in there, going to run off on 31st Avenue. In that neighborhood, that much more runoff we're going to have. I think there's a number of things that we need to really look at. I'm glad that we're going to give some more time to look at this. If there's other options, we're more than willing to look at this. But the neighbors contacted me, and we've all kind of talked back and forth, and I said they were a little concerned what that's going to do to the property values as well as encroachment. So that's where we stand with that, and I'll be interested in seeing what else we have. I'll let you guys talk to. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Simmer. I have Angela and Dale. Do you want to speak together or separately?
She would need the portable mic if she can't stand very
Do we
long.
have a portable microphone?
Yeah, Tim can get it.
So we'll get a portable microphone set up. I can move on to Rebecca Long while we do. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, sure. Thank you, Dale. Do you need me to get these names?
I live at, well, you should know, 1823 30th Street, and we've lived there for 50 years. We were there when McDonald's first moved in there, and of course, we had no say-so. I don't know why we were never contacted. I guess there was some deal with the city where the property was non-compliant, I think was the word they used. But at no time did my wife and I ever agree to this proposal that's on the agenda here. Mr. Gendron came to my house the day after the Planning Commission meeting and tried to tell me he was going to be a good neighbor and all this. And I said, well, if you want to be a good neighbor, stay over where you're at right now and we'll get along fine. Another issue that Doctor brought up was the 2-lane drive-through, which he already has that. He has that. He's lost parking. He's coned off well, you can't see it in that drawing, but the diagonal parking that's in the new lot or right, yeah, right there. So, he only has one lane coming in off 30th Street. And it's only one, and there's parking on both sides of the drive-through lane until you get to about the back of Mr. Boyle's house, and then the lot widens out. And that's where I believe that's where his 2 lanes starts. So adding parking over in the new area is not gonna change the drive-through one iota. He's still gonna have 2 lanes coming in. He's gonna go around the back of the building where the ordering's taking place, but then they have to serpentine back into 1 lane again, because there's only 1 window to pay. So we don't feel that tearing down that house and that garage and adding parking, and as a matter of fact, at the planning meeting, he even admitted as much, that he doesn't need more parking. He says, I got plenty of parking, I need drive-through. That was a quote from Mr. Gendron. You know, he mentioned about trying to relieve the congestion on 30th Street. It can't be done where he's at. He's right in the hot spot, right at the intersection. When in the mornings, when people are going to work, the traffic light is red on 30th Street. The cars back up way past my house even, in line, waiting at the light. People coming the other direction want to turn into McDonald's, they can't, because the cars are there. Well, that's just happens at any fast food place where they have busy hours, like in the morning and at noon, but at the rest of the day, I don't see a big rush coming in there. I'm sure there is times when he gets busy, but those 2 are the peak times that he has problem with the traffic. So, but there again, like I'm saying, putting the parking lot in is not going to change the drive-through. It's still going to be just like it is right now. And the last point I'd like to make is, or not the last point, but the garage he wants to build, which we don't understand why he has to have a 30 by 25 foot square foot garage. He's got one there now, I know, and it's an older garage. But I don't know of any other McDonald's that has a 3-car garage on their lot, but maybe they do, I don't know. And the final thing I'd like to say is, in 1994, McDonald's tried to move south. They tried to buy a house that an elderly lady lived in, and as soon as she went to a long-term care facility, that's when they didn't bother trying to buy it when they lived there, but as soon as they were gone and the church got the house, then they was ready to buy. And the city council turned them down. They said they didn't want it. Alan Carmen said, we don't want you moving farther south in the neighborhood. And that was only 42 feet. Now they want to come in 84 feet. So, you know, to be consistent, I think they should not be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is the 3rd time that we've gone through the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is our 3rd time protesting this. Every time it's been turned down, the last time it turned into a special use permit. The items that were on the special use permit, I didn't actually see what Mayor Pauly had signed off on until after the fact. Some of the issues that we had brought up weren't even included in the special use permit. I don't know who watches the compliance with the special use permit. There's things on the special use permit with Mayor Pauly that still have not been rectified. Some of the issues that we brought up that were supposed to be in there was lighting. We were really concerned about high lighting because it was shining right down our driveway. It was blinding. At McDonald's, they made them, Alan Carmen made them put shields on the lighting, and they said that there would be no lighting on this second lot. The second lot was not to have any lighting except for a motion detector when the employees came over to access the new employee parking lot. That never happened. The house, it's surrounded by lights now. And as soon as our trees lose their leaves, will have the blinding lights again. I don't know that, but it's not in the signed special use permit. On the western side of the property is where we join with them, and that was supposed to have 5-foot abrevieties plus a fence. That never happened. The fence is there, the abrevieties were never put up. So that atmosphere that we were supposed to have, the privacy, we are one of the few on that block that are always in our backyard. We have a patio back there. In the past, the council has turned it down, turned it into a special use permit. I don't know how the regulations work. I'm not aware of that. I don't know how planning and zoning. I don't think this is on their future land use to expand this far into the neighborhood. When you talked about helping other neighborhoods stabilize and keep families there, we're having all the money that we've put into our house, the maintenance of it, we see it go out the door when we are going to see a garage right in back of our house, a big garage with the lights, the noise, and everything that comes with it. The house, originally, it monitored in the special use permit, only 2 employees could even use that business office. The parking spaces were for employee parking only. That's not been the case. There's been trucks over there, there's mechanic stuff going on. We hear stuff all the time, like somebody's building something. So the special use permit is already being abused with a new special use permit, and these drawings, I would like to see to scale. Where are the parking lots going to be? Where is this new garage going to be? Exactly how much land they have. And I don't know if that's the code right now that they can build a new garage only 3 feet off of our property line. He had told us that he would put up abrevieties. He had told us he'd do this. I don't see any of that on the plan. Now, this is just in a conversation a couple weeks ago. That bothers me that there's not a follow-through. If you're going to say something, do it, show it. I don't see that. I think you need a more dedicated plan that shows exactly what's going to be. Where's that wall going to be built? Where's the fence going to be? All the people coming on 31st Avenue are going to have full access once that house is gone to watching the drive-through all the time. And like my husband said, the drive-through is 2 lanes right now, but it goes down to 1 lane to pay. How you can only get people through there so fast. Mm-hmm. I don't see for 80% of their business being drive-through why the investment is ever needed. The only thing I can think of, it's going to be for future argument. Okay, we got this. We're going to tear down this house. Now we got a vacant lot. We'll turn it all into a parking lot. Or we'll move our order thing further away. And the next house, they're going to buy that. You know, I don't know where they're going to go. I just don't trust what's going on, and I don't like the encroachment into the neighborhood because it's depreciating the value of my home.
Thank you. I had one more signed up for the public comment portion. Oh, sorry.
I had a picture in I don't know if you're interested in seeing, have you ever seen the house up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
His counsel?
I had a picture of it here, and I had a drawing. This when we got the special use permit, that's what he was supposed to do. Kevin Murphy was supposed to do with that property that never got done. That's what my wife was talking about, the plants.
And they took the picture of the house with McDonald's garbage laying in front. We thought that was kind of strange.
We have Rebecca coming up, and then we'll follow back to you. Is that okay?
Rebecca Long, 1825 31st Street. A lot of mine is kind of just reiterating, maybe going a little further in what the other two have talked about. The lighting, we have a light that shines right in our bedroom. We use blinds and curtains, and it still shines through and wakes us up at all hours of the night. His employee parking that he currently has, his employees don't use it. Today, 0 employees were parked there. If he gets his employees to park in his employee parking, which he already has, that would free up, I don't know, how many employees work at one time, 5 or 6 vehicles? So I don't feel like the additional parking is needed if his employees would do what they are supposed to be doing. The third thing is the trash. He said in the zoning committee meeting that he had a trash can on the exit to 31st Street, which he does not. I think Zimmerman had photos of that. We left our trash can out on the road for an extra night, forgot to go grab it. When we did pull it back up, we had 10 to 12 pieces of McDonald's trash in our trash can that we pay for to get emptied. Like, that's not a lot of space, but if I wouldn't have left my trash can out, that would have ended up in one of mine or my neighbor's yards. The final thing is pushing that back, 12 feet or whatever for the parking spots, just pulls the noise further into our neighborhood. We already hear loud cars, blasting music as they're sitting in the drive-thru. I understand he cannot control what people play as they wait, but pulling that barrier back just brings that noise that much further back. And I actually have a video, more noise related, of a truck at 4 a.m. that woke me up. Let me see if I can get it to play. That's what I hear in my bedroom at 4 a.m. when their truck comes. I feel like 4 a.m. is unnecessary. There are other parts of the day where he doesn't have business that a truck can come and deliver or shut the truck off. Like, I wish I had a video of their garbage can, because their garbage getting dumped at 4:30 in the morning is also very, very loud. So moving that back just increases that much more. And I agree, it's gonna definitely depreciate house values a ton. My house is right behind that house they were talking about purchasing with the roof caving in. I'd rather see money go to that. That's gonna help my house value because it's not gonna be decrepit. Instead of getting this commercial parking moved, it's just gonna bring it just as much down as the house that's falling apart that you guys don't wanna purchase and renovate, so, thank you.
Okay, Dave, I forgot to mention too, we talked to Beth Mahalo, which is also the neighbor there, that was, I don't know, on the city council or worked for the city somehow. But she told us last night, another thing, she maintains that this goes way beyond the spirit of the original intent of this agreement for that. So that was her verbiage, and she will be back by next month, so.
I have a letter from that the Mahalos sent to me, and I've sent it to the city manager to be sent to the representatives, the other alderpersons. She asked that I read this as part of the discussion. However, I'll defer to our city attorney if that is appropriate, or if that's something that could just be entered in as entered into the minutes as it was presented to me.
I think that since we have opened things up for discussion, I don't think there'd be a problem with you reading it.
Could it be brought on October 11th?
It could be done then as well.
Could she be here on the 11th to read?
I could certainly hold it off until the 11th. I know
That would
that
be my recommendation.
she asked for it to be read tonight, but
Well, I think that the residents that showed up here tonight would probably be interested in hearing what it has to say while they're already here.
I'm sorry,
I think that because of all the residents that showed up already to speak on it, they would probably be interested to hear what that particular letter says while they're here.
The residents that are here are probably.
Residents that are here might like to hear it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
My hearing aid, you speak into my good ear. It says, Mark, I'm traveling and not able to spend any time with you in person before tonight's meeting, but wanted to share some thoughts with you about McDonald's plan for commercial expansion into residential neighborhood. I was originally for the transfer of special use permit to the new owner. I would not oppose the new folks from tearing down the current garage and building a new 3-car garage. I have serious concerns about any additional paving or impermeable surface space that added to the neighborhood. A very serious water issue is already on file with the city and should be noted and addressed prior to any additional surface area being paved or built upon. In a simple, very light rainstorm, hydroplaning occurs from our house, 1825, all the way to the McDonald's driveway, across both lanes of traffic and in all parking areas of both sides. I will attach video, which obviously I can't present. I will attach video from this, from last week's brief rainfall in a serious spring and fall rains and occasional summer rains. Water will fill the same area from curb to curb, up over the curb, across the sidewalks, and into any yard space that the neighbors have to give. This situation occurs a minimum of 6 times per year. I have seen people drive through this and send waves that would hit the Handley's front porch. I have seen and recorded water running through the Handley's yard for the entire length into their basement windows and over the wall at the back of their yard. I am aware of a letter that was written to the Handleys that came from the city stating that if the Handleys raised their yard, the water issue would be spread over the next properties, the Boyles and the Mallows. This was determined after the city did a survey of Handley's property. The Handleys raised their yard anyway. So far, we have not had a drop of water in our basement. We hope to keep it that way. Any additional paving is likely to disperse water into Boyle and Handley Mallow properties. If the level of the proposed property raised, the home next door on 31st Street will become a lake. We ask that you table this proposal until a land survey of the area can be determined, the physical, economic impact, and proposed changes will have on an already overburdened sewer system. End quote.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call the vote. We have a motion to postpone.
Oh, I have some questions.
Okay.
Miles, could you come up, please? So I attended the Planning Commission meeting where this was discussed. So Miles, first of all, can you confirm, so the Gendrons are new owners of this property or recent owners?
Yes. So slight change in it. They've been involved in the, correct me if
Right.
I'm wrong, you've been involved in it as a part owner, now you're a whole owner, is that correct? Okay.
Oh, is he here? Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
didn't see. Yeah.
So he can also answer some questions, I'm sure that you know. So yes, so just if I can take this as an opportunity to just make a couple of quick,
Please.
just plain points about special use permits. So, a special use permit is attached to the person. It's not attached to the property like a variance or a zoning change would be, okay? Special use permits come to the city council. The city council has full authority to add on any legal stipulations or requirements that you deem appropriate, okay? That can be as general or as specific as the law will allow you to do. That could include saying something like, I want X number of trees arranged in a certain fashion along a border, or I want fencing of a certain height installed. All of those things could be incorporated into a special use permit. You have authority to determine that. If a special use permit is not approved for this property, it cannot be continued to be used for business. Its underlying zoning, as you can see in this map, is R1, our lowest density residential district. So as something owned by the business, if the special use permit is not approved in some capacity to allow them to use it for business, they will not be able to do anything business related on it. It'll revert to its underlying zoning use. The actual things that are contained in this specific request for the special use permit is first the transfer of ownership. So that's the first thing that's specifically being discussed. The second thing is the configuration of parking and landscaping to some extent. There's the standalone garage, because remember, we wouldn't normally allow someone to build a standalone accessory building. You'd have to have a principal building. And then, of course, just the general use by the business. The demolition of the house that's there now, as well as the demolition of the existing garage, is not related to the special use permit except physically in that that action would take place. If there was no special use permit here at all, people can pull a permit for a demo of a house on any residentially zoned property and tear it down if they own it. We don't have any prohibitions against that. To some of the questions that were raised about some of the past actions, and again, I just provide this to clarify a little bit and kind of give you a sense of why staff do the things that they do in a situation like this. Years ago, the application for rezoning of this property from residential to business was filed. At that time, it was ultimately not approved because it wasn't in compliance, as was referenced, with our future land use plan, which states this should remain residential. However, in the future land use plan, it talks about areas of the city where there's going to be conflicting uses right up next to each other, and that's not going to stop being the case, and we need to find ways to mitigate some of the negative impacts of having those things next to each other. 18th Avenue, the full length of it more or less, from 5 points on to the Moline border, is in what the future land use plan calls a transitional area, where we have a hard transition between higher density, higher intensity business uses, and then lower intensity residential uses. And it provides some guidance on how we should handle a property exactly like this one. It says we shouldn't rezone it, we should use a special use permit. We should use a special use permit because it's not permanent. And it also allows the council to have oversight on the specifics of what's done there with guidance from the Planning Commission, who of course holds an initial public hearing. It also provides some guidance on what you might include in that special use permit, or what sort of elements you might want to put in to a site like this to mitigate those negative conflicts. You might add some fencing, some landscaping, reduce the lighting, all of those things. So there's a whole bunch of things that our planning documents and our policies guide us to do, and that's why staff have brought this forward. If the council, having received feedback from constituents, do not believe that there is sufficient safeguards in place to prevent conflict between uses, we can certainly reevaluate the special use permit and work with the property owner to find some alternative things to include.
And I have a question regarding that. If that's the case, where you have to negotiate new restrictions, does it then have to go back to the Planning Commission for reapproval?
The actions that you've taken tonight to not table it, but to postpone it, we can use the time between now and then to reevaluate some of the conditions. I'll defer to the city attorney on whether or not it needs to go back to a public hearing.
And that's a good question. I suspect that it will, but I can't give you a 100% answer on that at the moment, but I suspect it probably would, because that would change the nature of the proposed use. But I can get you an answer this week.
We can do a little look at precedent, Dave, and make sure that we haven't had a situation like this before. If the council in the past has had a special use permit where they've added on a stipulation as part of their final approval, I would think that showed that it didn't need to go back to public hearing. But we can discuss that and come up with the best strategy.
One of the things that would, for instance, I think be a difference between, hey, we want to add a few trees. I think that's probably a different situation than you're not going to be able to pave anything, or you're not going to be able to put in a building within 3 feet of the property line, those types of things.
So given some of these concerns, here's what I would propose. The city attorney and the CED staff can sit down and talk a little bit about what the process we need to follow given some of these concerns is. We can also meet with the property owner and talk a little bit about some of the ways we might mitigate some of these concerns, and then we can appraise the council of what the appropriate steps moving forward are. One of the things that we want to emphasize in any sort of planning, zoning situation is we need to make sure that we don't take away people's ability to get full value out of their property, while at the same time balancing the concerns of people adjacent to that property who also want to get good value out of their properties. So this is a very interesting example of kind of where we need to find that sort of sweet middle ground where we balance everybody else's property rights and make sure that people can get value out of what they own.
So my final question is actually for Mr. Gendron. How much money have you invested in this property in the last 2 years? Yeah, the McDonald's property.
At this location, I probably invested $1.2 million.
That's what I thought. I just have, yeah, I just have two final comments regarding this. So, as someone who's worked in economic development for years and has brought forth various business expansions, new development, whatever, there's always that, especially when it's adjacent to residential, like you described, there's always that, I don't know what even to call it.
The tension.
The tension, the friction, and they're always against new development, new thing. I've never seen it where it's not. But one thing that has happened in the last week or so, I've heard from a constituent who surveyed several Rock Island businesses or businesses that chose not to locate in Rock Island. We have a very bad reputation for not being business friendly. And it's something we are going to have to address. And I understand the difficulties because I went through all this. I used to bring projects to the Planning Commission too, so I understand that. But we need to work on when a person has invested $1.2 million, and I believe he owns the property already, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, my take on that is, briefly, is that while, yes, businesses have that, we still need to be residential friendly as well. For people that have had residences there for a long-standing time, they've invested into their property, and it seems to, listen to the conversations from some of the residents that have spoken tonight, is that, granted, it's a new owner, but apparently stipulations weren't met by the previous one, and they weren't doing their part. So I can understand why they feel the way they do, because they were promised something, or something was supposed to go into effect, and then it did not take place. So there's, again, I'm glad we're going to hold off on this decision for a while.
Yeah, and I respond just a couple of different ways. One, I think that staff can always do a better job of following up and monitoring these sorts of things. We often do, and I can tell you just personally in the last couple of years that we have made a point of doing that for some of the things we've more recently approved, going and checking and, did the trees get planted? Did the fence go up? We go and we document compliance. So further back in time, I can't guarantee to you that we were always doing that. I'd like to think that staff was. But certainly going forward, we can make that point. And again, point well taken. We have different property interests here that need to be balanced. And that's what we attempt to do in this process, where people are able to provide feedback and we can, again, try to find some middle ground that'll maybe not be perfect for everybody, but it's better than certain alternatives for most.
Mayor Pro Tem, does Mr. Gendron have anything he'd like to add?
Come on up.
Thank you. As I said in our Planning Commission meeting, it's not my point to try to adversely affect any of the neighbors on this property. Not looking at adding any new parking, just moving it 20 feet farther. Be glad to address any of the issues and work on solutions as far as fencing, landscaping, any of that. When I went over to talk to the neighbors, I really went to just say, hey, I'd be glad to fix any of the issues that you have with it, and try to make a resolution on what we would need to do. We changed the lighting. The lighting wouldn't happen anymore if the house wasn't there, but that's neither here nor there. Also, as far as any of the, like Rodney said, that any of the storage in the trailer that was on there, be glad to move it. Between myself, my wife, and my son, we're probably at the restaurant 6 days a week. And I said at any time, if there's an issues, some of the issues that I heard were the first times that I had ever heard about those issues. I talked to Steve a lot. We've tried to solve any issues that he ever had on the property. I looked at my son to buy the property from me. In the future, we look to be there for a long time. We'll make any adjustments that's needed. As far as the water, issues that concerned about, on 31st Street, there's multiple sewer areas, and almost every time they're clogged. I've unclogged them here since the last meeting. I went to look and say, wow, is there really a water issue? There's a red van that's always parked on top of one of the sewer areas, and then they're always clogged. So I think that the water won't be an issue if those are taken care of. But we would be glad to do anything needed. I'd be glad to, as you table it, if we want to address some of the concerns and make adjustments. As far as like building another property on their garage, I could just let it go too. I don't need to even build it. I think it would look better if there was on there, but on the other hand, if that's something that the neighbors didn't want, I'd be glad to move it. If we need a drawing or we need some stricter language in the special use permit, where it needs to say exactly how many trees need to be, exactly where a garage would need to be put, any bit of stronger language, we'd be glad to, and support that. We just want to be a good neighbor. We've been there. I've only been there for, I guess, part owner and owner for 12 years, so a lot of the long-term issues as far as the lighting and whether the McDonald's was built there or not, unfortunately, I couldn't make those changes. But in the meantime, we've tried to do the best we can in that area. We've invested the money in the building. And to be honest, as far as that house goes, I've paid to put new siding on it. I put new windows on it. I put a new roof on it. We've done everything we can to make that property look as good as it can. I think it looks as good or better than any of the other neighbors that are on 31st Street. And we would continue to do that in that area. So, but I'd be glad to answer any questions if somebody had a question.
So can you and Miles and work with the neighbors there then and get something because I think the neighbors, as they talked to me, wanted something in writing, so that it would be something that we can come back a year from now saying, hey, I promised to cut the grass when it got 6 inches tall, and the grass is now 8 inches tall, and we can come back and say, hey, we really need to focus on the agreement.
Yeah, I have no problem working with any of the neighbors and with Miles to make sure that it's exactly what they would need.
Yeah, we can certainly touch base with Mr. Gendron and kind of work through some of these things. I would caution against a 6-inch grass requirement, but we can certainly talk about some other mitigation efforts. And again, we can look again at the future land use plan and that language in there that guides these areas and how we can maybe lessen some of these negative impacts.
Well, and I respect the amount that you have invested into the city and into your business, but I also have to take into consideration the quality of life for the neighbors that are in the surrounding area.
Yeah, I have no problem working with that. We'll make it as good as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Oh, I can call for a vote now? Thank you. Call for a vote. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Geenan?
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 25.
Report from the Public Works Department regarding a request from Mr. John Granite of Granite Construction to connect to the city's water supply and sanitary sewer system for the parcel he purchased at 8110 14th Street West, Rock Island, Illinois.
Move to approve the request and authorize staff to coordinate the construction, inspection, and connection to the city's water supply.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderperson Parker?
Aye.
Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Geenan?
Aye. Item number 20, oh, sorry.
7-0, motion carries.
Item number 26.
Report from the Public Works Department recommending Brandt Construction Company be added to the emergency contractor rotation list.
Move to approve the addition of Brant Construction Company to the emergency contractor rotation list.
Second.
Roll call. Oh, sorry, discussion.
I need to recuse myself due to the nature of my employment.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Poulos?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Hurt?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Keenan.
Aye.
6-0, motion carries.
Item number 27.
Report from the Mayor's Office regarding the appointment of Samantha Ganji as city clerk to a 4-year term beginning October 1st, 2021.
Move to approve the appointment as recommended.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think she'll be an excellent city clerk.
Welcome, Samantha. Roll call.
Alderperson Parker,
Aye.
Pulis,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
Welcome.
Item number 28.
Report from the city clerk's office regarding a sound amplification request from First Baptist Church on Saturday, October 2nd, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. for an outdoor movie presentation.
Motion to approve the sound amplification permit as recommended.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call. Oh, we don't need a roll call, do we?
We do.
Yeah.
Alderperson Parker,
Aye.
Pulis,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Geenan.
Aye.
7-0, motion carries.
We already had done item number 29. Item number 30.
Executive session, 5 ILCS 120/2, C6, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body.
Move to go into executive session for the exception cited.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Alderperson Parker,
Aye.
Pulis,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Hurt,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Geenan.